Welcome back. Well, I say welcome back. This is actually my first YouTube series. Done a lot of briskets in my time, and a few of the boys have been hitting me up for the full cook, not just the little bits and pieces. So I've got a 4 kilo Bass Straight brisket. It's probably the smallest brisket I've ever cooked, actually. So the reason I picked this one is pretty much because of the shape. So I didn't want to cook too big of a one this weekend. So I only went 4 kilo one and just went off the shape. So we'll rip her out and see how it looks. Just give this a quick clean up because I'm a bit of a clean freak, and that's why I've got I love to rub my meat from the Alpha Blokes tea towel. Met those legends at Meat Stock recently, and those little rascals were having a bloody good time. Bunch of good guys. Rightio, so the shape on this thing is actually pretty good. A little bit of thick fat at the top. That's the decal, so we might trim that down a little bit. The flat is really thin, which I expected. So the sort of smaller the brisket, I think the harder it is to cook, but we'll round it off a little bit, give her a bit of shape, and see how it comes together. There's a tiny bit of the mohawk there, as you can see. You can cut that off, but I mean, unless you're doing competition, for us, there's no need. So you just want to start trimming it off, not taking too much of the meat. And save this trim because that will make some beautiful tallow. I just went and got a tray to put the excess fat for the tallow in. So we want to try to keep this as smooth as possible. That's why I'm using the longer knife here. So no sort of rigid big cuts into it. There's plenty of that thick stuff at the top. This one here is quite thin still, so I'll leave a little bit on top and just work on the hard stuff. Sort of want to try to round it as we do this. Just got to take your time with it, move it around a bit. Treat it kind, treat it kind. And as many videos as you watch on this, everyone will do it slightly different. So just find what works for you. Don't overthink it. So you'll see that really hard fat there. That won't render. So take her off. Yeah, this one at the bottom, it's like it's almost been trimmed already. It's a pretty good quality brisket. This, there's no need to take any of that off. There's not really any hard fat there. Next time I get a bigger brisket, I'll show you how I trim a big ugly brisket. It takes a little bit more time and a bit more delicate. I will round this off. So see, this point here is really thin. That's just going to ruin the brisket. So what we'll do is sort of round it through. So I like to sort of all but square it off, and then sort of take triangles so it starts getting a bit thicker. I'll probably cut, there's a bit of meat on that, I'll probably take that out of obviously where the fat is there, and I'll chop that up and put it into a stew or something so it won't be wasted. A lot of people make sausages and that out of it. I don't have that, that sort of machinery with me at the moment, so. Rightio, that is looking pretty good. So just giving you a closer look at this now. The shape's pretty good. There's no sharp edges. It's just nice, clean brisket. That's the bottom. That's the top. So you will see, as I said, that's the sort of mohawk. A lot of people sort of take that off for the competition. There's a bit of thick fat in there that doesn't really render, but it's you know, for us amateurs, it's fine. That shape's good. That'll come together quite nice. So I should have mentioned the knives I was using. I've got a 3-piece kit from Lane's Barbecue, and that's just the perfect set for briskets. You've got sort of a boning knife, a sort of trimming knife, and the brisket cutting knife. I use all three of them, and it's a really good cheap set, definitely if you're only getting started. I'm just going to give this a bit of a squirt with some beef stock before I put the rubs on, and that's just going to help the rubs stick to it. So I'm going to actually do the bottom first. And the two rubs I've got, I'm doing something a bit different today. I've got John Henry's Raspberry Chipotle. Last time I cooked a brisket, I used a bit of this and a barbecue rub, and it was really good. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the Raspberry Chipotle. And I'm also using Meat Church Holy Voodoo. Now, this one here is typically for wings and pork ribs and that, but I've seen a few things of recent where they're saying it's killer on a brisket. So I'm going to give both of them a run together and see how she comes out. If I was cooking this for mates and to try to please, I'd stick to someone, one of the ones I know. One of my favourites, the Hardcore Carnivore Black. That is a killer rub, but I do like to try new rubs, so it's always a bit different, and that's the whole fun of cooking. So make sure you're going on pretty liberally with this. This will be a nice thick piece of meat, and we'll get to eat all that. It's not like you're eating all this seasoning, so. Rightio, we'll let that sit for a minute, then we'll flip her over. Rightio, we've flipped her over. We're going to give her a heavy season on the top side now. The last brisket I did with this raspberry chipotle rub, I tell you what, the smell coming off the thing was to die for. The problem was I did a 4-hour rest and I was salivating the whole time. You're going to have to excuse the camera skills, I'm only getting used to this, so. But it's not about the camera skills, it's about teaching the fundamentals. Time and temp for briskets, it's as simple as that. And hopefully this video can help someone out there get into cooking, or cook for the family, cook for their wife, cook for the husband, cook for the partner, whatever it is. Rightio, we'll let that sit for a bit and then we'll get her in the smoker. Rightio, well, I'm just giving a little clean up here. Just wanted to speak about the fundamentals of cooking a brisket. So many people get scared of briskets. I don't really understand why, but the fundamentals of cooking a brisket is cook it low and slow until the bark develops. I like to cook it around 225 degrees Fahrenheit overnight until that bark develops, and then take it to around, in the morning, I will bump the smoker up to around 275, take it to around 160, 170 internal temp, Fahrenheit that is, and then wrap it, take it to around, as I said, bump the smoker up to 275, take the briskets to around 200, it'll start feeling probe down, start putting your probe in it. Once it starts feeling like butter, take it off. Let it rest, let it come down half an hour, either put it in wrap it in a towel, put it in a cooler, or Let it come down on the bench for half an hour or so, bring the internal temp down a little bit, then slowly bring it down, set your oven on 150 Fahrenheit, leave it in there for 2 to 6 hours. The rest is very important, and it's as simple as that. So hopefully these steps help you along the way. Chuck the meter probe into the thickest part of the meat. Nice and deep. Does the work for you. Okay, we got our cut-offs for our tallow. Just chuck that up the top. And as you'll see, the smoke is nice and clean. I clean it after every cook. A bit controversial to some people, but that's the way I do it. I'm going to give her a good night's sleep in the smoke. It was at this point I remembered I didn't have my gloves on, and this was going to cause me a few issues, but I tried to do it anyway. Works a lot better if you've got gloves on. So I'm just going to pour a bit of the drippings from the beef tallow over this one. This was about 4 o'clock in the morning, so I kept looking at the camera to see if it was still going. I was still half asleep, but that's what always happens when you put a brisket on overnight. Snug as a bug in a rug. I had a few technical issues when I took the brisket out to cut it, and I thought that it was recording, but turns out it wasn't. But that's okay. You get to see the picture here. It's nice and juicy. The flap was a tiny bit dry in it, but that's expected on such a small brisket. Overall, it was good. The flavour was nice. Would definitely prefer a Wagyu brisket, and I probably wouldn't do that rub combination again, but that's the whole purpose of cooking and trying these things. Like, as I said, the hardcore carnivore black is definitely the best rub for briskets from my point of view at the moment. So if I was cooking for people, that's the one I'd use. Just a little taste test here for the chef and a little bit of a nod of approval. You know it's good when you're nodding like that. Oh, we got brisket, baby. Oh, yeah.